Hey, welcome back to the channel, my fellow weather junkies. I'm your host, meteorologist Greg Majeski, your trusted weather source. And you know what? Yeah, I'm a real meteorologist and not just a weather enthusiast. Welcome you to the channel here on your Wednesday, January 29th, 2025. Let's go take a look at what we're tracking here for today, as we do have a severe threat that's returning across parts of Texas. We'll show you where we're expecting that to start to fire up here heading into tonight. We're going to talk about the same system is going to transition to a little bit of a snowstorm for areas of the Northeast. We'll look at some of the snow totals up there. And then we're going to talk about the pattern uncertainty. It's definitely a little bit back and forth on this as we look long range. So don't get kind of locked into a specific weather pattern because there's a little uncertainty out there. I think once this weather system here in the middle of the country kicks on out, we might get a little better idea. Now, before we get going, first I want to thank all the new followers here. And if you haven't yet followed us just yet, hey, let's get that counter down there moving again, shall we? If you haven't subscribed to the channel and you're a regular viewer, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. Share this with your family and friends, and let's get this thing growing in the right direction, shall we? All right, let's go ahead and take a look right now what we're seeing here on the big picture here, starting our day. Again, we're watching our developing storm system here. Some response to this upper level low that's kicking out of the southwest. That's what's going to kick off our storms for today. A little bit of snow across the northeast expected, and we got another storm system out here on the west coast that'll be kind of arriving going into tomorrow and into tomorrow night. So it looks like the northwest in California will get some more rain here soon. I had some welcome rains across Los Angeles, but nothing imminent there for the time being. Let's look at your watches and warnings across the country. A little bit breezy into the northeast. That's what that brown color, that tan color is there. Got some winter weather as well up there with the advisories as well as some warnings. A little fog across the south. Got some flooded watches up here across Arkansas and parts of Oklahoma anticipated for heading into tonight as well. A little winter weather here across Colorado and New Mexico. Let's look at the big picture here across the country. Again, here's our snows going into the northeast down there. Rain's gathering across Texas as well. Not bad temperature-wise across the country. No real super Arctic charged air across the region. It's cold in the Intermountain region, obviously, with some 60s. So we got a little pocket of some Arctic air out here up in the elevations. But otherwise, not really looking bad here from coast to coast. Let's look at some of this rain down here toward Houston for this morning. Got some showers that are going to make for a wet commute for today, as these are the initial signs of that development of that storm system that's going to be kicking off into Texas and then kind of moving into Louisiana as we go into tomorrow. So let's go ahead and transition over to the Storms Prediction Center. We'll look at the thunderstorm outlooks here over the next few days as we're going to try to track this storm system. So again, you see that just a marginal risk for today here across central areas of Texas. So that does include Dallas, by the way. So gusty winds will be the main threat there. The real active weather kind of gets kicked off going into tomorrow. So let's look at your day 2 outlook here, as we'll kind of kick off a slight risk for severe weather down across Louisiana and Texas. And yes, there will be a tornado aspect with this. Not expecting a major outbreak, by the way, but there will be some tornadoes associated with this as well. You got that marginal there in the darker green. So let's break this down by the category so you can see the percentages here. Again, that tan area, that gives you that 5% chance you might see some tornadoes into that zone. So a big chunk of Louisiana and East Texas under the gun right there. Hard to believe that's the same area that was dealing with the snowstorm just last week. So now they're dealing with that. Hail threat will be relatively low. Not looking too bad there, only 5%. And of course, got strong gusty winds, basically in that same area that's in the slight risk. That's running about 15% there from strong gusty winds, excess of about 60 miles per hour potentially for that. And then this system will slide off toward the east. We look at your day 3 going in toward your Friday. Looks like that'll be moving over into areas of Alabama, the Florida Panhandle, and parts of southwest Georgia. There's just a marginal risk for some isolated pockets of severe weather as the system pushes off toward the east. Now, the other component with this is going to be some excessive heavy rainfall. Obviously, we're talking about thunderstorms. So we're looking at your day 1 outlook here. You got that slight risk for some pockets of flooding there, getting pretty close to the Dallas area here for this afternoon and heading into tonight. So be careful for that. And then as we take a look at your day 2, well, that's going to go ahead and get into a little bit bigger area for sure. Look at the expanse on this. We're talking about getting up toward Kentucky, back toward Texas, getting in there, and see that slight risk there for some heavier isolated pockets of flooding rains. Looks like areas up there potentially 3 to 5 inches, especially across Arkansas, heading in for the next couple of days. So just watch out for that. And we'll see things begin to improve after that. And let's look at your day 3. Look at that. Everything begins to shift out toward the west coast on your day 3. That's when that storm system starts to come out here on the west coast. We'll get some heavier rains out there as well. And they've been a bit dry for a little while now, so they can handle a little more rain coming their way for now. Let's look at the hazards outlook the next 3 to 7 days. A couple of things we're going to highlight as we can see in the return of some cold air You're seeing a couple of that up in here across the northeast as well. We got a cold shot coming there. This tan that you see, that's the gusty wind. So it's going to be kind of gusty with the winds in here as well. And then we got the obvious little pocket there of some heavy rain flooding there on the west coast as well. And maybe a little pocket there, a little flooding right around the Dallas area. That'll be kind of going into tonight with that developing storm system. So let's go ahead and break this down. We're going to first take a look at the high resolution model first. It takes us about 40 hours here. So this is kind of a reflectivity, what the radar might look like, look at here. So what we're going to watch is a few areas. We got the snows here across the northeast. We got our developing storm system out here across Texas. And then we're going to watch that next storm system come out here on the west coast. So those are the three areas you're going to watch as I progress through this model run here, taking you up to going into tomorrow night about midnight. So we're going to watch this storm system develop. So what we're watching is this upper level low here that's kind of kicking out of the four corners. We've got the cold shot bringing in the snows there across the Great Lakes. Obviously, the great lake effect machine will be going. But the real feature is going to be there across the south central plains there as we go into tonight. We're seeing the heavy rains here kicking up across areas of Dallas. So we've got to watch that real closely there. You see the rains expanding through Kansas and going back over toward Arkansas, all right? And as we go on through, this kind of moves off toward the east here as that low begins to slowly push off and gets kind of fired up and kind of absorbed as a new low starts to form. So you're seeing the heavy rains there across Kansas. Bit of a squall line starting to form there through Arkansas and Louisiana. And going into tomorrow night, so around 6, 7 o'clock, that's when we'll have to watch that tornado threat, especially here across Louisiana for tomorrow evening. That's when the highest risk for severe weather will be kicking off. And at the same time, while that's going off, we got that west coast system coming on in. You'll see that heavier rains here and higher mountain snows here across the Cascades kicking into Washington State as we go into Thursday night and into your Friday morning. So we're going to talk about the jet stream. We're looking at the European model here real quick. So let me switch this over. In fact, I'm not on the European, so let me switch that on the fly here. So what we're going to watch here is, again, that low is going to kick on out here. So you see the feature kicking on out. This is the storm system that's going to bring us our active weather there going into Thursday night. So we got a pretty good jet energy that's kind of blowing through here. That's going to set up that severe weather. There's a little bit of spin there. That's wind shear. That's why the tornado threat is there as well. And temperatures are going to be plenty warm, that's for sure. So we got the three things we're talking about. We got spin, we got heat, and we got lift. We got the cold front. Those three things are what's setting up that severe weather. So this moves on off toward the north, starts to flatten out, and the weekend's not looking all that bad. Looks like we got a fairly zonal flow going into your Saturday here across the country. So areas here in the deep south, boy, they're really going to warm up very nicely going into next week. That is for sure. So again, we're looking pretty quiet here going into next week. You notice we've got a pretty progressive, fast flow here across the country. So not really showing that, not seeing that big dips and dives there in the jet stream right there. At least not yet. So this goes on, continues on. We've got another week system coming out here as we go toward the end of next week. And then as we go toward the end of the model run here, looks like we start to tap some cold air. And we see a dive here in the jet stream here starts to take place around the 9th and 10th, and then dives down here across the east. Now, this is where we got a big difference in opinion here. The European model is showing another big cold shot coming down here in the east. The GFS is saying not so fast. So as far as the long-range projection, again, remember, anything beyond 7 to 10 days, it's a projection at that point. Whether it's like a set of dominoes, if one domino don't fall, it don't happen. So again, we're going to watch and see how this evolves. But right now, it's showing a cold shot coming on down here across the east. So folks in the southeast, especially, if you thought you were done with winter just yet, I would not say that just yet. We still got the whole month of February to deal with here. And it looks like we got a cold shot coming down as we head toward, say, the 11th or so. All right, so let's go ahead and look at the precipitation flow here. Again, we got that cold shot coming in there across the northeast. We're watching the storm system down here. We'll be setting up your severe weather there going into Thursday and Friday. That'll push into the southeast. So areas of Alabama and Georgia will be getting in on the rain going into on your Friday. We got that active weather out here on the west coast kicking back in. And some of those rainfall amounts across northern California, by the way, look very impressive. You'll be interested to see that here in a second. So check this out. So there's our snowstorm here as the storm system kicks out. So the same storm system is going to bring the severe weather down here toward the South Plains. When it moves up into the northeast and bumps into that cold air, you're going to be looking at some pretty good snows here for the interior sections of New England. So we're not talking about the major cities. Boston down to New York and Philadelphia, they're looking rain, but the interior section is definitely looking at some pretty good snows as that system begins to push into the northeast. Now, as they go on, progress on through the weekend, again, other than the activity out there in the west with the snows and the rains out here, as that system moves inland. Most of the country looking pretty good here across the nation. In fact, with the freezing lines hitting way up here, this area is down here across the south going to warm up very nicely going into next week. I think we're going to see a lot of 70s kind of popping in here as well for afternoon highs. So looking pretty good through early next week, not looking bad. We do have another system kind of trying to make its way down into Southern California. Not bringing a whole lot of rain in here. It was looking a little more impressive the last couple of days, but maybe get a little more rain down to Southern California, maybe, but not a whole lot. Not as much as what they just received. Then we'll see how things develop here. We got another weak system here tracking across the south as we go toward the 7th. So we got some rains and some storms here. A little bit of looks like a weak wedge in there with some snows there across portions of Philadelphia and into areas of Virginia. And then we got yet another storm system coming out here on the west coast. It's coming in as we go toward the 7th. Now we're on day 9 here now. So again, anything beyond this, we're going to kind of speculate. We got another little cold shot there across the northeast, and that's been standard pretty much all winter. Boy, they've been getting one shot after another there across the northeast. Very cold winter for those folks up there. And then we got another quick looking clipper system here coming on in to the northeast yet again. But here, notice that freezing line is starting to work its way back down toward the south again. And we got another big cold shot here as that jet stream begins to really dive down here across the southeast. So look what happens here. Boom, as we go toward the 12th, showing this potential Arctic outbreak. We got the freezing line way down toward the south. We got some snows here across the Ohio River Valley. And things will warm up big time out here in the west in response to that big trough if this verifies out. Remember, this is long range forecast here. So, and there's a big difference in opinion between the American GFS and European. And of course, yours truly does favor the European because it tends to be the most consistent model, doesn't do a lot of huge flip-flops typically. So that's why I like the European model better. Let's talk about the precipitation chances. Let's go through this upcoming weekend storm. Obviously, we got this rain here across areas of Arkansas, Texas, 3 to 5 inches of rain, not out of the question there. We get the rains here come back on the west coast. Some of this will be in the form of snow, obviously across the northeast. We'll show you that here in a second. We're going to go take this all the way out to the 10-day mark. I usually don't go beyond about 240 unless there's a special reason why I want to. But typically I'll go out about 10 days. And as you can see, we'll continue with the rains here across the southeast. Look at these rain totals out here into California, man. We're talking about some serious rain totals here. I'll go ahead and pull up the west coast real quick here. And it is lighting up here upwards of 8, 9, 10 inches. That purple in there. Yeah, you're looking at some very heavy rainfall there across Northern California as we go through the next 10 days. So let's talk about the snow totals again. Looks like it's predominantly going to be the Intermountain region getting a lot of heavy snow in the northeast. Really not going to see it. So there's the initial snow coming in for the next day or so. This is our initial snow coming in before that other system kicks on out and moves up that way heading into this upcoming weekend. So that's that initial snow. And then this pulls on out here, and then we'll wait for that system to come in there. Oh, there it goes. So you're adding some snow in there. You start seeing that pink in there. You know we're getting over 6, 7, 8 inches of snow coming on top of what's falling already. So we got a nice little snowstorm coming in, going into this Friday and Saturday for the Northeast. And we'll go ahead and take this out to 240 once again, going out for the next 10 days. As once again, we'll stop it right about there. You see again more snows up here in New England. We got some pretty heavy snows out here in the Intermountain region, obviously with that onshore flow. So we're talking feet of snow out there. But most of the nation generally snow-starved. You got a little bit of snow for some weak systems there across the northern tier. But that is generally it here over the next 10 days. Let's talk about the temperatures here. I'm decided to go up to about 850. That's about 5,000 feet here. And I do want to go ahead and highlight some of the temperature anomalies here. Again, you're looking at the reds, you're looking at the oranges, that's the warm stuff. You're looking at the blues, the greens, the dark purples, that's the cold stuff. So generally going to see temperatures here looking pretty much above normal as we're wrapping up the month of January. You see it clearly here with unusually warm weather here across the east and really kind of above normal for a lot of the country as we wrap up the month of January. Now let's go further in the month of February here. We got that one cold shot coming into the northeast. That's going into over the first. Got a cold shot here, but still, again, a lot of the country looking pretty mild there across the nation. All right, let's go further into February here as we continue on through, going through next week. And boy, we're talking about, look at the southern tier, boy. We're talking warm weather down here. We're talking about going toward the Tuesday and Wednesday. A lot of 70s and maybe some 80s. Wouldn't surprise me if we see some 90s down there in South Texas. It's going to be quite warm. There's a little pocket of some cold air up across Montana going toward Tuesday. But again, that's the way it's looking right now. They got this little shot trying to come down. It was the European was hitting this early, kind of backed off this, but it doesn't really make much progress there. It just kind of cools things off just a little bit here across the east, but still running above normal. Look how much of the country here on the 7th, 10 days out, looking above normal here across the nation from coast to coast. Then beyond the 10-day, again, the European is saying, hey, we got another cold shot coming at you here. So it looks like right through the 9th, a lot of the country's warm, but then we're going to track this cold front here that's going to be diving in some cold air here as we head toward the 11th. So this is going to work off toward the east, and as that trough sharpens up, it's really going to dump here big time here across a big part of the country. So look at the 11th here. Looks like 2/3 of the country looking at icebox weather, although warm here out here in the west. And as that trough really sets up there, it really warms up big time in the west. So the country's generally cut right in half. We got a big area of high pressure here. This is a cold Arctic high sitting there. So it's going to be cold here, and it's going to be warm on the back side of this going back out toward the west as we head toward the 12th and 13th. Again, that's what the latest projection is, and we're going to have to see if there's some model consistency with this as we get closer to it and deeper into the month. So let's see what our friends at the Climate Prediction Center are looking at as far as their climate outlook is concerned. And this looks like a typical La Nina, although we're kind of got a weak La Nina pattern setting up, you know, warm here across the south, cold air up here. That kind of looks like a La Nina map to me. But February 3rd through the 7th, we'll take this out further out to the 11th. Now, this goes out to the 11th, all right? So look at what we just saw with the European. If the European continues to be consistent, this period here going at least to the 11th, this is going to change. It's going to have to, obviously, with that big cold Arctic outbreak. So what we're going to wait and see is we got some model continuity. That's what long-range forecasters do. They want to see if the dominoes are lining up properly to bring in a cold shot or not. So stay tuned for changes on this map. Going out to the 6 to 10 day here on the February 3rd to the 7th, you see the onshore flow kicking in out here on the west coast. Definitely starting to see a more progressive weather pattern with the storm systems here. So the precipitation outlook is definitely going up for a lot of the country, except for areas here across the southwest, still staying pretty much on the dry side. But like to see a little more rain down here in Southern California. We'll take what we get at this point. They have another chance of rain coming, but it doesn't look nearly as robust as the last system that came on in there. So again, we're going to be watching that severe weather threat here for tomorrow, see how things evolve there into Louisiana. One thing I will say, folks, as we're transitioning into the month of February, as things warm up across the south and we get this greater opportunity for the clash of the air masses here, the opportunities for severe weather are definitely going to go up, not only for winter storms, for obviously heavy snows and things like that, but also severe weather. So we're going to have to watch this very, very carefully. And if you'd like to be part of our weather family, number one, and if you'd like to have this as part of your normal weather feed, get that little counter down there going again, man. Give me a thumbs up if you can. Please subscribe to the channel. Be an honor and privilege to be one of your weather sources out there. God knows there's enough of us out there. My only concern with YouTube, man, there are some people out there, they just want to scream to the rafters and say, it's the storm of the century. I saw a guy on TikTok. The guy drives me crazy when I see him. I'm like, oh, please, dude, you don't know what the heck you're talking about. Anyway, that's y'all's weather update for today. You guys take it easy, be good, stay safe, and we'll see you on the next update. Bye, guys.